Happy to be back. Missing
Fan.
it. I've been itching for some Hawk Talk.
It should be a great show. Really quickly, before we get into our Warhawk thought for today, I'm going to have everyone go around, share your name, your grade, and maybe just a little bit about you and your favorite teams. We'll start with Ryan.
My name's Ryan, freshman here. Favorite teams, all Wisconsin sports, Brewers, Bucks, Badgers, Packers.
I can see that by the Joey Ortiz jersey.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Colin Reynolds, I'm a junior here, big Packers guy, like the Brewers and Los Angeles Lakers basketball.
We'll get into that in a little bit, I'm sure.
You know why.
Surely will, Chris.
You know why.
I'm Alex Lazzarini. I'm a senior, and I'm with Colin with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Mikey, I'm a sophomore this year. Big Packers guy, also a Cubs fan, depressingly, sadly, but
Just doesn't make
yeah.
any sense.
yeah, I mean, hey.
I mean, you can always jump on over to the light side.
You're
Yeah.
wearing a baseball t-shirt.
It was free.
That's true. It is sweet. Just doesn't make sense.
I got last year's one, too.
My name is Alex Lindblom. I'm a freshman this year, and my favorite team, this is a little weird one compared to the other ones, it's the New Orleans Saints.
I
So-
always love when we have people from other teams coming in because it provides so many different perspectives. How are you feeling so far about this year?
Okay, first week I was like, all right, this seems like a fluke, kind of like it's the Panthers. I didn't really believe in it. I was like, all right, because we're going to make huge changes over this season. I mean, we got Clint Kubiak, new offensive coordinator, so that was pretty huge. And then going into the Cowboys week, I was like, well, this is like really to show it, to really see if we are a good team or not, if we're even contenders, which is weird to say about the New Orleans Saints. And then we destroyed the Cowboys as well, which was insane. So, and then, I mean, on Sunday against the Eagles, it was kind of slowed down. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Can
Pretty
I also
excited,
just say from the rest of the NFL, thank you for embarrassing the Cowboys.
though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How about
great-
them Vikings, Chris?
We'll see on Sunday.
Why is
How
Sam
about
Darnold? Why is Sam Darnold playing like an MVP candidate right now?
Because he is an MVP candidate.
All right.
Laz is a Vikings fan, for those of you that don't know.
Oh, okay.
And it's good to see Andy Dalton back in the saddle.
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
Joe
Yeah.
Mabee is definitely he's over the moon about Andy Dalton. He
Right,
said before the
right.
show that Andy Dalton is going to be lifting the Super Bowl MVP trophy at the end of the season. I mean, 1-2 is better than 0-3 at the end of the day.
Right, the numbers do add up there, Chris.
All right, so with that, we're going to jump into our Warhawk thought. And Colin, I know you have some things to say for this one for sure. We'll start on the other side this time. Alex, who is your favorite athlete of all time?
So this is probably isn't a surprise, but I'm gonna go with Drew Brees. Just solid quarterback, and I mean, I honestly, this is my opinion. I think he's the greatest quarterback of all time. Actually not greatest. I think he's just like the best.
Surely there's
Honestly.
no bias there.
Yeah.
No bias at all. No bias at all.
I'll show you a 10-minute compilation of Aaron Rodgers' best throws, and then you let me know what you
Aaron
think.
Rodgers is the
That's
most
my
talented
goal.
for sure.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is most talented, but I'm going Drew Brees. Yeah.
Mikey?
I'm a big Charles Woodson guy. Thank you, Dad, for that. I've been a Charles Woodson guy since he signed with Green Bay, I'd say. In my opinion, the greatest college athlete of all time to ever lace him up on the gridiron, so I'm going Charles Woodson.
Could you remind me where he went to college?
He went to Michigan.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wasn't sure.
Mine is Tracy McGrady, hands down. Just an absolute cheat code in 2K17 and as the 99 Raptors. And, you know, this is a hot take. I said it a lot last year. Without injury, Tracy McGrady would have been the greatest basketball player of all time.
That is definitely a hot take. I'll put it that way.
Yep.
I don't even want to argue that with you anymore. We've had the conversation so many times. But
I guess on the last show of the semester, we can have that debate and
I will
full-fledged
make
it.
a PowerPoint presentation as to why and back my claims.
come on now. Favorite player? How can you not be just, enamored with the greatness of LeBron Ramon James? Come on, he's the greatest basketball player of all time. He's 6'9", he's a tank. He's got the speed of Russell Westbrook. Some may say he's got the jumper of Steph Curry. I haven't heard a lot of people say that, but you could technically say it.
I think you might be the only person saying
I
that.
support that. I
Shoot a
support
higher
that.
three-point percentage than Steph Curry last year.
So
Definitely
fact
the highest
check.
of history, definitely the
I
highest of
Someone
history, but
fact check.
I've been
Yeah,
going
I am-
hard for 23 years now. Before I was born, before most of us were born.
I was about 6 months old when he got
Yeah.
drafted.
And
Yeah.
just the greatness cannot be denied. I love that man.
The Olympics were a lot of fun to watch this year for sure. Having Curry, KD, and LeBron all out there for one last run at the gold was pretty awesome. I'm still an MJ supporter right now, but that is
Yeah,
subject to
yeah.
change
Wait till LeBron
potentially.
goes on a three-peat with Bronny.
If that happens, it's all because of Bronny, not because of Bron, obviously.
exactly.
Absolutely.
My favorite athlete of all time, it's Derek Jeter. Growing up, I collected so many of his baseball cards, and I wrote to him when I was like, 8 years old, and he actually responded, which is pretty cool. So, and my favorite play that sticks out to me is the one where he goes full face first into the stands, and that and the jump throw is one of the most iconic plays in baseball. Oh, and the flip against the A's.
You got a letter from Derek Jeter?
I did.
That's pretty
awesome.
cool.
It's in my room.
That's awesome.
I would have
Right,
framed
Dad?
that.
Right, Dad? It's in my room.
I would have framed that.
Dude, bring it. We won't take it.
Obviously not.
Trust
I will bring
Yeah,
it. I will bring it. I will bring
I want to
it.
rip it up into pieces.
I will have my dad bring it this next weekend.
I'd frame that if I were you.
I'll get a frame for
That's
it.
awesome.
I'm surprised you don't have one already.
I know.
Take it in
It's a
frame
little
count.
wrinkled, but we'll get it.
I have a couple different answers for this one. One of mine is definitely a Sheboygan, Wisconsin legend, where I'm from, Sam Decker, the guy who dribbled the ball off his face against, I believe it was the
A
Knicks.
turnover.
If you're from Sheboygan, you know him for his 30-foot bomb to win the state championship for Sheboygan Lutheran back in 2012. I happened to be at that game, but in terms of Bucks players, probably Giannis Antetokounmpo, just because he's really the first true star I ever witnessed in Milwaukee. Like, you could maybe argue like maybe Michael Redd,
Brandon Jennings.
Brandon Jennings,
Brandon Jennings.
Andrew Bogut for like half a season, but when I
First
was
overall
little,
pick.
there was not much excitement per se around the Bucks. I've talked about this before. That was kind of like when I was the most into them was when
I'll never forget 2015 getting blown out by 50 to the Bulls.
yeah, that
Great
was
game. Phenomenal game to watch.
If you watched that Bucks
Mikey.
team, you
Yeah,
really
I don't want to hear
appreciate
it. I mean, when you look at the standings this year, though, it's Bulls down here, Bucks.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you, if you
Somewhere
watch
in
that
there.
The
Bucks team, it
standings
really makes
aren't
you
out
appreciate
yet,
the current
actually.
Bucks.
When they're not out. We don't know. We don't know what's gonna happen.
You never
Season
know.
hasn't
The
even
Bulls
started.
could win 55
It
games.
could go any way. Once
Yeah, the
again,
Bulls,
not a
the
Bulls
Bulls could
fan,
win the
just
championship.
a Bucks hater.
Except the Pistons.
Yeah.
Kobe White for
Well, I don't know,
MVP.
man. They got Tobias Harris now. That's a playoff team.
Oh,
That's a playoff team.
MVP
Dude, that moved
candidate
me.
Tobias Harris.
That really moved me, man.
Thank you.
And then the second they get to the playoffs, he'll go 2 for 14 and they'll get out right away.
Oh, also unrelated. Ben Simmons off-season mixtape dropped. I don't know.
I've heard he's-
That's how you know the season's coming.
Depending
and,
on
his shooting coach said that he's back and better than ever.
Who? Chris Brickley?
Yeah,
He says that every year.
yeah, he does. That's
When
why.
I saw the quote, I thought it was like a recycled quote from 2 years
No,
ago.
no,
like,
that
oh, he
was
just said the
that
same
was
thing
posted
again.
like 4 or 5 days ago.
That's what I say every time I go back into my intramural
Nice.
seasons to shoot 2 for 12 on my first day.
The Ben Simmons cycle has started again.
Ben Simmons versus Chris Pittner one-on-one. It might be closer than you think.
That's
It
gonna
might
be a
be.
You never
1-0
know.
game.
I could,
Punch him in the back, he'll go down for 3 years.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, his back's healthy.
I just
He's got
got to
a
talk
healthy back.
trash. Pretty much. That's all I'd have to do. I just
dip
have to
his
get in
head.
his head. Yep. But with that, we're going to move away from some bigger athletes into some much more local news, which is the UW Whitewater volleyball team, who's off to a flying start this year, no pun intended, 12-1 on the season. Their first loss of the year did come last week against 6th-ranked UW Oshkosh on the road in their conference opener. However, they did respond and beat number 7 University of Laverne and number 15, I hope I'm saying this right because I've said it wrong before, Gustavus Adolphus in St. Louis, Missouri, both in straight sets. Ryan, you've covered the team before, so tell me a little bit about your reactions thus far on the season.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's the main two. It's Elena Jansky, it's Jenna Weinford that are absolutely killing it. But, you know, Chloe Warner's really stepped up, and she's been playing really well the past couple weeks. And especially the game, it was last week, and she really dominated. She filled in for Jansky and Weinfurt when they weren't playing their best. So
When I was looking at this, Despite being ranked, I believe it's 15, Whitewater took down Gustavus Adolphus handily in that match. Their hitting percentage was .265 as compared to .074 for Gustavus Adolphus, who's only 7-7 on the season, despite being ranked number 15 somehow. I don't know how that works, but Whitewater just taking care of business like they've been doing all season. Colin?
Yeah, the loss at Oshkosh doesn't help, especially that being a conference matchup, but they're fine. Like you said, they beat Laverne 3-0, a clean sweep there. Elena Jansky and Jenna Weinford have just been dominant, absolutely what we expected from them, and they're just cruising, like you said, flying. Like you said, no pun intended, the Warhawks are flying. But they got the matchup coming soon versus number 4 Hope University, so that'll be a good matchup to watch. Two powerhouses going at it, so we'll see what happens there.
Whitewater with a ton of ranked matchups in the last few weeks. They went up to Northwestern in Minnesota, played 3 ranked teams, then played against number 16 Milliken, then 6 Oshkosh, and then number 7, number 15, and then number 4. They're just racking up those conference
So far,
and
they beat them all
non-conference
except
tough
for Oshkosh.
matchups. Laz?
Yeah, I want to go back to that Oshkosh game. That game happens at Cary Russell Gymnasium. You know, that's a Warhawks W for sure. They've only lost 1 game on the road, you know. So they're a very at-home team. And, you know, they're not playing at home again until, October 4th, I believe?
Yeah,
against
correct.
Eau Claire.
So Claire.
But yeah, they have Hope College and Transylvania coming up, both ranked, both on the road. I mean, the transfers are going to have to step up like they've been doing, so, you know, I'm not too worried about it myself.
I mean, in my time, going back to the transfers of being a student here, which has been 4 years now, this is probably the deepest team I've seen in terms of the transfers and just overall talent.
Yeah, I mean, watching the game itself, it's unbelievable talent out there, Chris.
I announced a game against Concordia, I believe it was about a week and a half ago now, and it's just the difference between the two teams was just night and day. Like, Concordia could score points, but they weren't really ever posing a threat. Mikey?
Yeah.
Well, you guys have been taking a little more looks to the past. I want to look more towards the future. As you mentioned, already got Hope College for the Transylvania Invitational and also playing Transylvania there. And then moving on towards North Park University, which is going to be their only other, at least currently, their only other home-ranked matchup going into conference play.
Something else to take note of in that matchup against Hope is they played them last year actually and lost in 3 sets. They played them in Chicago, Illinois, and they got swept. So that's something to take note of. I think the team is playing a little bit better this year than they did last year, though. Alex?
So as a freshman, I mean, I am kind of newer to this volleyball team in particular, but going back to the Oshkosh game, about like what Laz said, I mean, it was a super close game. I mean, both teams played great. It was a pretty even matchup. Although we were away, I mean, we're kind of a home team. So, yeah, that being said, it being so close, both teams played great. We dominated in blocks. We had 15 blocks. They only had 8. And then, yeah, Elena Jansky, 21 kills. Jenna Weinford right behind with 14. Just solid play and, yeah, played pretty good in the Oshkosh game. Just couldn't come away with it.
They took 2 of the first 3 sets, I believe. They lost set 1, 1 set 2 commandingly, 25-13. 1 set 3, 25-22. Then lost set 4, 25-23. And then the 5th set, which is only played to 15, they lost by 5. But looking ahead at this lacrosse game, lacrosse only 6-11 on the year. We haven't really touched on them too much yet. We'll start with Alex again here. What can you expect in that matchup?
Honestly, I think we can come away with it. I think we got it, to be honest. I just think I think we have just better players. I think we have enough talent and enough even coming off the bench too. I just think we have more talented roster.
So a lot of depth on this team, no doubt about that. Mikey?
Kind of going with him, except I'm pretty confident that UW Whitewater can come away with it. There's a reason that they only have 1 loss, obviously. You know, they've utterly dominated majority of their opponents, and then Oshkosh just barely slipped up there. But Lacrosse, as you mentioned, 6-11 squad. I think it should just be UW Whitewater mopping the floor with them.
Business as usual, Mikey says.
I mean, we are 16-2, or we're 30-11 against them all time, and yeah, we're playing them on the road, which doesn't really. We still have a winning record against them on the road. Again, this is a deeper team. We're ranked. Lacrosse isn't ranked, I believe, not yet, at least. I'm not sure. We're 8-2 in the last 10 matchups, so.
From the looks of it, we've also taken the last 5 in that series.
Yep.
Head coach Stacy Bedreau also has a winning record against every single team in the WIAC since she took over. I believe it was in 2005.
That is dominance right there.
Indeed.
What do I expect? To quote Chris Collinsworth before the Sunday Night Football matchup,
Oh boy.
fireworks.
Fireworks. Really set the
We're going
tone.
in versus a team that's under 500. We're 12-1 on the year. We've beaten some ranked teams. 1 loss versus Oshkosh. Nothing to hang your head about. We fought hard. Not worried about that one, Chris.
Think it's going to be an easy 3-set, 4-set?
3 sets, and we're out of there.
It was 3-0 in their previous matchup a year ago. 25-14, 25-14, 25-20. Nice and easy.
Yeah, no, I think like you have the 2 back-to-back wins against Laverne and Augustus, but like you're also gonna get this one against Lacrosse, and then you're gonna go into Hope in Transylvania, and this will be a good game to like keep building momentum, and like we have, like you said, Chris, very talented roster, very deep, 8 graduates or seniors on the squad, so.
A lot of experience on this team, no doubt. Adding those transfers in, like Elena Jansky and Chloe Warner, has been huge for not only depth, but just production immediately this year. Not going to lie, last year I also thought Jenna Weinfurt was not going to be returning, but she came back this year, and, well, they've set up a dominant attack. I've seen it a couple of times already this year. They're so methodical, and their hitting percentage is always just significantly higher than their opponents. Does anyone else have any other thoughts on the volleyball team before we jump into our next topic?
I think you summed it up great there at the end.
Yeah, very
Really
good job.
brought it all together.
Really put a bow on that one.
Right.
All right, with that, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is college football recap. I want to start with the elephant in the room, the UW-Madison or Wisconsin Badgers, however you guys want to classify them. They've been off to a bit of a rougher start this year than I think a lot of people expected, struggling against Western Michigan in week 1, playing a bit better against South Dakota in week 2, but still leaving a lot to be desired, and then having a really tough time against Alabama, which obviously nobody really expected them to win that game, but I think some people, myself included, expected a bit better of a fight because at times Alabama seemed vulnerable. Laz, we'll start with you on this one. What have you seen from the Badgers so far, and what do you expect
Just
going
overall or in
forward?
that Bama game?
Overall, going forward, whatever.
Overall, I mean, they have a pretty solid run game, and I mean, it didn't really show in that Bama game, but their defense is,
So-so.
they're middle of the pack. But the big thing for them is they have to score more. I mean, they're scoring around 27 points a game, which in college football, that's not going to win you games. Maybe in the NFL, but definitely not college. And they also need to convert. They need to convert on 3rd and 4th down. I mean, they've gone for it on 4th multiple times this year and just have not converted.
I think there was one in particular that I was thinking about. I think it was against Bama where they lined up in shotgun on 4th and inches and got stuffed behind the line.
Yep.
And I was sitting there yelling at my TV like, why are you in shotgun right now?
Why are you not coaching the Badgers?
I might be doing as well as Luke Fickle right now, to be
That's
honest
what
with
we
you.
need. We need Coach Pittner on the sidelines.
For real. Mikey?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Wisconsin, Tyler Van Dyke did get injured during that Bama game and had to bring in Braden Locke. I'm a big Braden Locke supporter, I will say that.
You might be alone in that because I
might
am
be.
not.
It's because
No,
my,
no disrespect to him,
because
but
of my
Maybe
dynasty in college football 25. Braden Locke is a current Heisman candidate right now. But yeah, I'm a big Braden Locke supporter. But yeah, he looked very sloppy against Alabama. But it is Alabama. It's still, even if they don't have Saban, it's Alabama. So I think that, I mean, they got USC coming up. It's not it's not really a prove-it game for them, I guess, because it's still USC, still a very, very talented squad, but up against Purdue, I think that will be really his true test to see what happens.
Watching USC against Michigan on Saturday a little bit, I noticed that their defense has improved from last year. Last year, when Caleb Williams was their quarterback, it felt like they just lose shootouts week in and week out. Like they put up 42, but the other team would put up 47. Alex?
Okay, so I think we could cut Braden Locke a little bit of slack. I mean, he got thrown into the Alabama game, and that's not really what you want to see from a backup. So I think this bye week really helps, and I think you can use this bye week to kind of recharge the batteries and kind of just get Braden Locke some time with the ones in practice. And I mean, I think this USC game can really see what he's capable of, and I think it's huge for Wisconsin. I honestly think we might have a chance at taking the game away from him too.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This game is in Southern California, correct?
That is
It is.
correct.
Yes.
It's at the, what is it called?
The Coliseum?
Yeah, the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Sorry, I spaced out for a second. Ryan?
I mean, again, it's 13th ranked USC. They're going to be a dominant football team, and I don't know. Fickle's been here for a little over a year now, and like, same with Phil Longo. We have not really seen what the air raid offense should be, and we're still trying to play Big Ten football and still transition to an air raid offense, and it's just not working how it's supposed to be.
I guess my question for you on that then is, is this because of the personnel, or because Fickle's, like you said, has been here for over a year now? He's kind of had time to establish, like, some of what he probably wants from the team. Is this more of a personnel issue, still being some of, like, Paul Chryst sold guys, or is this just, like, is Phil Longo a fraud, I guess is what I'm asking?
I mean, UNC, they had the air raid with Longo. It wasn't anything great. I mean, Drake May thrived in it, kind of. It's why his draft stock was so high. It's why he's number 4 overall pick with the Patriots. But then again, like, you come to Big Ten, you're supposed to play Big Ten football, pound the rock, and now we're all expecting to change to the modern days of college football, and the Badgers just don't seem to adapt to that real well.
Colin?
Yeah, and like we were talking about, you can't put too much stock into that loss versus Alabama, but you would have loved to see them fight more. And you hate to see Van Dyke going out with the torn ACL, but Braden Locke coming in, he's looked so-so. I mean, not terrible, not great, but he's going to have some more time to get used to this offense and settle in and see what he can do. But definitely some big tests coming up for them. 13th ranked USC, and then on October 26th, Madison has their homecoming versus Penn State. So
Big game there.
could be a bummer of a homecoming for the Madison students, but it will be a good test, and if they can get a win there, that would be huge for them.
Well, I think most of the Madison students don't care too much because they get to jump around regardless of a win or loss.
Yeah.
But I guess I want to pose this question to the room now. With Fickle being here for about a year and a third of a season, we saw last year with Northwestern was a prime example. Their coach, because of some scandals, had to be let go. They brought in an interim, and they looked a lot better than Wisconsin did with evidently less talent. Does that mean anything, like, on Fickle? Alex, I'll start with you in the corner. What are your thoughts so far on the Fickle tenure?
It's kind of hard to see. I mean, he hasn't been here very long, but I mean, even through the Fickle era, I mean, Wisconsin's yet to get and see consistent QB play, which is kind of sad to see because we're bringing in high-profile guys as well. So you kind of want to put that on him, and I feel like even piggybacking on what other people have said, it just kind of almost feels like Wisconsin doesn't even have an identity. Like we want to be a run team, but we don't rely on it. And even Wisconsin, like a thing about Wisconsin, we've always had good offensive lines and just good blocking. So it's just kind of weird that we just don't even have an identity when we say we want to run, but we don't. It's kind of hard, and I don't know.
Wisconsin ran the ball 41 times against the Crimson Tide and only threw 31 despite trailing the majority of the game. I guess they try to advertise as an air raid team, but they don't really run the air raid too much.
No.
You don't see a lot of, deeper balls, and even when Tyler Van Dyke tried to air it out a couple of times in those first two games, they were just inaccurate. Mikey, any other thoughts?
Well, yeah, going on with Alex, I mean, it does seem like they don't really have an identity, but I think a lot of it is kind of because of that quarterback play. A lot of it last year, Tanner Mordecai just wasn't too great at throwing the football. We saw a lot. He was more run-first quarterback, I felt like, at least from what I was seeing from him. And Tyler Van Dyke, yeah, more of a pocket passer kind of guy, but he just wasn't really consistent throwing the football. And now Braden Locke, we're just going to have to see what happens with him. I know that Braden Locke and Van Dyke were in a kind of a QB battle, but it was almost like everyone knew, okay, Van Dyke's going to win it, but Locke was showing some progression. So I think that coming up with these next few games, Braden Locke should pull up some spectacular stuff probably.
We will see. There's no doubt about that. Laz, any other thoughts?
I mean, Fickle's hiring, what was it, last season, correct?
Last season. It would have
was his
been
first
2
season.
years
Yeah,
ago
he was
in
hired
like
in the offseason
November,
last year,
something
I'm
like
pretty
that.
Yeah, so last year was his first season.
Yeah.
I mean, it made sense bringing in a bigger name to try and, I guess, change the program and change the way they played football. I think that Alabama game was really his moment to shine. And, yeah, like you said, it is Alabama, realistically, Wisconsin was not going to win that game, but there was hope for a little bit. They were up 3-0 for
People were saying stop the count after that.
that, yeah. Sam Strash was saying stop the count. I think that was his game to really prove something with, and it just ended up being a blowout. They were all right last year. They're probably just going to be all right again this year. So,
Colin, any other thoughts?
Yeah, though he's a relatively new head coach, he's going to have to show that he can beat some good teams, and he's got the opportunities coming up. Nobody expected them to beat Alabama. I mean, they're not even in the same tier on college football. Just two different football teams, but there's
JV and
13 USC and then number 9 Penn State coming up and Purdue in there as well. They've got some opportunities to beat some big-name schools, and if they can do that, they can kind of establish themselves as a better football team than they look right now.
I guess the final question I have really quick is coming up. Wisconsin still has matchups against USC, Purdue, Rutgers, Northwestern, Penn State, Iowa, Oregon, Nebraska, and Minnesota. Do you guys think they make a bowl with this season? Sitting at 2-1 right now, they're going to have to win 4 of those games. Ryan, I'll start with you. Do you think they can make it, or is this going to be the first time in a long time that the Badgers are sitting at home come December, January?
Yeah, no, I think they'll make a bowl game. You got to get 4 wins, and the Big Ten is always so hard to play on the road. But I mean, you get Minnesota at home with the Axe game, but then Purdue as well at home. But then you have to go on the road to Northwestern. They always play tough against the Badgers. Iowa's always going to be a tough game. So it's not going to be an easy 4 wins to get, but I think they do get it.
Colin?
I think it's a 50-50. The way they've been playing football right now, I would not be surprised if they don't make a bowl game, but if they can put it together, like you said, it's only 4 more wins. It's up in the air.
I'm going to have to say no, just because they have a lot of tough opponents coming up. I mean, there's no way they're going to beat Oregon. I mean, that Iowa defense is just impenetrable. I know because I have to play them on NCAA.
That stadium pulse is
And
insane.
it's
Not only that, they have to play at
ridiculous, dude.
Kinnick, I believe, this year, too. They're on the road for
They
that
are
game.
on the road for
Yeah,
Iowa.
they have to play in Kinnick, and that's just not a place you want to play, Chris. It's a place I don't want to play.
Definitely not.
Not
And-
even on my PS5. I don't
And
wanna
Iowa
play that.
actually has some semblance of an offense this season as well,
Yeah.
whereas they haven't had that for a long time.
I'm a Cade McNamara hater.
I believe it's their running game, though. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. That's been the keystone for them.
It's been their defense, obviously.
Yeah.
It's obvious from the defense, yeah, but that's just Big Ten football is defense and running, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I miss
Yeah,
Jim
and
Leonard.
They're playing Nebraska on the road. That's a tough one. It's not looking good for the Badgers, unfortunately.
They're putting the bad in Badgers.
Right, thank you. It's a great one.
Mikey?
I think it's 100% possible. I think it's just going to really rely on if the offense can find themselves. As we mentioned, their O-line is always very spectacular. I think if their O-line can stay consistent and the run game can prevail, I think we just need to fall away from the air raid because I just don't think it'll work with Braden Locke under center. So probably just go on ahead and just keep running the ball with Ches Malusi and whoever else we got back there. And I think it's definitely possible. I think I said about 7 wins. I think I was telling people were about the area for the Badgers. But, I mean, the way they're playing, probably a good 6. I think they could get the 4, but 5 might be a little excessive.
Yeah, it'll be tough. Alex, do you think they make it to a bowl game, yes or no?
I mean, you look at teams like who are versing like number 8 Oregon, number 9 Penn State, and even other huge Big Ten teams that usually play great against Wisconsin, and some of them are away, and it looks a little scary, but like you only need 4 wins though. So I really think Wisconsin can pull it out, and if we don't, I think it'll be a good like wake up call. I think for just the entire staff and even players for everything like that. So
You have to think that the coordinators' jobs are on the line as the rest of
Yeah.
the season goes along.
Exactly.
I believe it's Mike Tressel and Phil Longo are definitely, they've been subject to criticism as of recent, but we're going to move on to our next game, which is going to be the aforementioned Alabama Crimson Tide versus the number 2 ranked Georgia Bulldogs this weekend. I believe it kicks off at 6:30 on ABC Saturday night. A huge matchup for both of these teams. We rarely see them play in the regular season. And like I said, it's just going to be a big game. Alex, I'll start with you again. What are your thoughts heading into this game, and who do you think comes out on top ultimately?
Okay, so you see, so number 2 Georgia versus number 4 Alabama. Both teams, obviously, huge schools, huge football schools, always have great programs. I think for sure we're going to see an amazing game. Like this, it looks like a championship, like it looks like a college football championship type of game. So honestly, I'm excited. I think I see Georgia coming away with it. Yeah.
Game is in Tuscaloosa. That is something to note. And Georgia barely held off Kentucky last week, 13-12, in a super narrow victory.
Yeah, they're having some trouble covering the spread for sure.
Mikey?
I mean, yeah, Georgia did have a really bad game against Kentucky, but I feel like that's just one bad game. I'm not going to really throw Georgia any shade for just one bad game. After all, they're still Georgia. They're still probably the biggest powerhouse in college football right now. I'd say that I don't think Bama's winning. I'm going with Georgia 100%. I don't know if it's going to be close or if it's going to be an absolute blowout, but I am fairly confident that Carson Beck and the Georgia Bulldogs will get it done.
I think it's. I would not go towards the blowout side, especially with it being in Tuscaloosa. I don't know in my lifetime if I've ever seen Bama truly get blown out at home. And I've been alive for almost 22 years now. Laz?
I'm also going to take Georgia on this. They're coming off a tough loss, and they're going on the road, so statistically they should be counted out of this one, but I think they didn't lose, excuse me, a tough game.
I was waiting for somebody to say
Yeah. No, I misspoke. Tough game, and where was I?
I think
Yes.
Georgia's going to win the football game.
Right. Georgia's going to win the football game.
Just like Auburn did.
Right. Your references are out of control today, in a good way.
The ball knowledge is deep.
I'm on a heater today.
You are on a heater.
Colin?
Yeah, this game is, like Alex said over there, it is really going to feel like a college football playoff matchup. I mean, 2 absolute powerhouses my whole life as well. Alabama and Georgia is 2 teams you think of when you think of college football. SEC play, they say it means more. It's just more important football. And Alabama coming in with first-year head coach for Alabama, Kalen DeBoer, coming from Washington, obviously taking them to the Natty last year. So not a tough coaching transition at all. You go from Nick Saban to another clearly very stout head coach. And when it comes to like predictions, it's all over the place. Some places, ESPN gives Alabama a 65% chance to win. I've seen some places with Georgia favored. This is just going to really be a test for Georgia, I think, coming in. Most polls had them ranked at number 1 coming into this. Obviously, they've got Trevor Etienne at running back, and they've got Dominic Lovett. He's been great for them at receiver. But only putting up 13 points in Kentucky was a little bit of a question mark for me to really see if their like offense can put up with Alabama and can keep up with them. I'm going to go with Alabama. Home game for them. They've been putting up a lot of points, and Georgia with the 13 bomb last year, only getting 1 touchdown in there. I think it's going to be a close game, obviously, but I think Alabama's going to come away with it.
These are 2 teams, I think, I'm not going to say shoe-in for SEC championship because now with Texas and Oklahoma in the conference as well, it makes it a little tougher to say that it would be these 2. But typically we see Georgia and Alabama in the SEC championship. Ryan?
Yeah, I'm going to echo Colin here. I think Alabama gets it done at home. That stadium pulse can be crazy for Georgia. It's just going to be a great environment. It's going to be absolute cinema to watch. And, I mean, the connection between Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams is going to be absolutely fantastic.
My question is, though, is Bryant-Denny Stadium as tough a place to play as some of the others in college football, like Death Valley and Baton Rouge? Or, excuse me, is it Baton Rouge where LSU plays? I'm
Yeah.
drawing a
Yeah,
blank.
it is.
But do you guys think Bryant-Denny Stadium is one of the toughest places to play? Just anyone?
I'd assume it would have to be, yeah.
I mean, it's just a bunch of history there, and it's literally, you think of college football, you think of Alabama, and that's
Yeah.
literally, like, Nick Saban's built that program up, and he's not there anymore. Obviously, DeBoer's there, but, like, still, it's college football. I mean, everyone's going to be stoked. It's going to be great.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the Crimson Tide is the only sports in Alabama.
Yeah, that's all they have to
Yeah,
do.
Oh, they got
Exactly.
Auburn. They got
I mean,
Auburn.
They have the Auburn. They have the
Yeah,
They
Auburn.
but
got
when
the,
it comes to, like,
what's-
Auburn, Alabama, you know,
It's not really
The
much
Iron
it's not really a
Bowl.
toss-up
Right,
there.
right.
Yeah, I mean, it is usually packed out, so
I definitely say it's one of the tougher places to play.
My only question about it is in a lot of those, like, you know, when they played Western Kentucky week 1 and won 63-0, I mean, like, the crowd's probably a little mild for those games, I would think.
But I think for a game like this, with how important it is for your standings and the atmosphere that it's going to have, I think they're going to pack the crowd. And nobody's expecting a blowout, so I think the crowd's going to be in it the whole time. Pulse is going to be max.
It should be a
Polls will
great
be
game.
maxed.
It'll be in the red, for sure.
Max
I will
pulse.
say
Tough
that
to
college
take one.
football atmospheres, in my opinion, are better than NFL atmospheres.
Oh,
I
100%.
absolutely
There's a lot
agree.
more passion,
Just
Yes.
with the exception of maybe like an Eagles game.
especially when you have those schools like Alabama where they don't have a pro team there. That is their pro team.
Or like where you're from, Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Same thing.
The Razorbacks, we live and die by the Razorbacks.
Woo
Pig,
pigs,
baby.
woo pigs.
Woo
Which is
pigs.
crazy because the Razorbacks finish like 5-7 every year.
Let's not talk about that, Chris. We're talking about Alabama versus Georgia right now. actually.
Sorry, I had to throw a stray your way. But so we got a lot of just mixed opinions in this room. I think I'm gonna have to go with Bama too. I think they're gonna take the game based off the home atmosphere, and I think their offense is probably just gonna be a bit more dynamic than Georgia's in that game. But with that, we're gonna move on to some surprises from the MLB season this year. We got some very avid MLB fans in here. Ryan, I'll let you start off with this one. What's a positive team surprise for you? What team really surprised you, either in a good way or a bad way?
I mean, the Detroit Tigers have done an exceptional job after the trade deadline. You get rid of your I mean, Scooble's the ace, but then you got Flaherty there, who was a free agent acquisition. Like, you're going to flip him at the deadline anyways, and they flip him, and they have turned out better. They're sitting in the second wild card spot today after the 2-1 victory over the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Tigers have just played phenomenal. They traded Mark Canha as well as and Andrew Chafin. They've leaned on their youngsters, just like the Brewers. Shout out the Brewers. But yeah.
Tigers definitely a team I didn't see making a push towards the end of the season, but they've done a good job. AJ Hinch has done a good job getting them in a good position. Colin?
I was surprised at how tight the NL West ended up being this year. I thought the Dodgers were absolutely going to run away with it. We know how deep they are, but the Padres and the Diamondbacks have played so much better than I expected them to. You know, the Padres getting rid of Juan Soto, didn't know how that was going to play out for them, but they've been able to put together a 90-win season up to this point. And same thing with the Diamondbacks. Corbin Carroll was struggling early, but they were able to put it together, and it's just a tight race there in the NL West, and I thought the Dodgers were going to run away with it.
There's a couple of teams that I'm looking at where their records are a lot better than even I thought they would be at this point in the season. I mean, obviously the Dodgers and Phillies are like an echelon above.
Yeah.
I believe they're about 4 games above the Brewers, who are
Yep.
next, but right behind the Brewers are the Mets, the Padres, the D-backs. Even the Braves are still there, hanging in there a little bit. Laz?
I got a couple. On a positive side, I want to say the New York Mets. They started kind of slow, but throughout the season, we've just seen them go on random win streaks of like 7+ games. I think in their last 10 right now, they're 7-3. They're 46-35 at home. They even have a good win streak or a good record on the road as well, 41-33. Another team that's been kind of disappointing is the Braves. They kind of opposite of the Mets, they started the season really hot. And then I think it was around July, just kind of.
The Braves
it looks
have
like
been
they're tanking for Wemby.
the
out
Braves
there.
have been the Braves. Their main issue's just been health. They just haven't
Yeah.
been healthy.
I know Acuna was injured a little early on.
Strider was out for the year as well.
Yeah.
So.
And the Yankees had the worst July I've ever seen in my entire life.
Which was
Yeah.
so funny.
That was horrendous.
As a baseball fan, I love laughing at teams like the Yankees when they're struggling. It's just so
Right.
much fun.
I think
like
almost
rooting against the
everyone does
Cowboys
except for
in
New
football.
York citizens there, Chris.
Well, you know, they're Lakers fans, Cowboys fans, and Crimson Tide fans. So.
Oh yeah.
But Mikey,
I'm going like way negative here. I think everyone knew the White Sox were going to be horrible.
Oh,
I
man,
didn't
you
think they
took
were
mine.
going to be absolutely abysmal, like historically terrible.
Buns.
you
And
know,
as a Cubs fan, I gotta say it because I love hating on the White Sox.
Right.
It's always fun to hate on the White Sox for me, and they have been historically bad. They are 53 and a half games behind the Guardians right now, who lead the AL Central, which is just terrible. And I mean, how early were they already out of the playoff race?
it's like July
It
or
was like
early
July.
I'm
August.
about to say like.
Off season.
Been eliminated from playoff contention. Season hasn't even
16
started
wins
yet.
on the road this year for the White Sox.
That's huge.
Also, I just want to say that I'm going to call back to a former show that we did. I believe it was 1 week into the MLB season last semester. We did MLB overreactions, and one of my overreactions was that the White Sox would be the worst team in the modern MLB history. And so far, they've delivered on
I thought
that.
that was an overreaction.
At the time, I thought it was, because I did that the year before with the Oakland Athletics, because I didn't actually expect it, but my goodness, they have, that take is aging pretty well right now, I have
The
to say.
Athletics they aren't a 100 loss team this year though, so I'd say it was a pretty solid improvement for them.
120 lost team.
They're trailing by 17 and a half more games in their division than they won this season.
It's hilarious how many games there are in baseball because a team can lose 120 games in a season. That is just.
And they're still
counting.
counting.
There's a
They,
week
they
left.
could
And
still
counting.
lose
Yeah.
6 more.
Yep.
I would quit my sport.
Yeah.
I would never play.
You look at that
sport.
record, you see whatever dash 120. You're
Yeah,
like, oh
you
man.
can't go into the.
Time to hang up.
You can't request a trade. Nobody wants you.
Yeah.
You blow.
Well, the thing
You
was,
suck.
Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert are still 2 good players, too. It's like, it's not like they're completely devoid of talent. They still have a couple pieces on that team that aren't terrible.
Andrew
Right.
Benintendi, the highest paid White Sox player.
But it's
Put that in
like,
perspective.
you know, those 2 pieces are fine, and then every other piece to that puzzle is missing.
Yes, you would be correct about that. I can't argue with you.
It's just like, it's like the coaches stepped up to play in a JV game. Like they're just so bad. And you know, a lot of games they've been in it. They've had a lot of 1-run games this season, and then just still blow it. They
The
blow
worst
leads.
part for them is their
that's a
bullpen. Their bullpen is like one of the worst
320
teams.
Run differential they've got.
Well, yeah, they've definitely gotten blown out.
I remember early in the season, they played a series against the Brewers, and they actually hung with them for
Oh
those
yeah,
games.
they were all 3 of the games were 4, whatever it was, 3 or 4 games. They were close.
Yeah, I was sitting there like, how on earth are the White Sox hanging with us?
Yeah.
But I feel like the Brewers sometimes do have a tendency to like kind of play with their talent or like play with their
Food a little bit.
Yeah, and then they can tend to run away, or they just play down to their opposing team's level, or play up even. I mean, what are they? 90 or they're about 90 wins, just about, right?
If they win tonight, they
89,
clinch 90.
67.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, the Brewers just tend to kind of play down to their level or up to their level.
The Brewers are kind of a roller coaster in that within like one series even, like against the Dodgers, those first 2 games of the series at home, I was saying like, oh, we're completely finished. This is we're easy wild card exit. But by the end, it's like optimism was renewed somewhat because they had won 2 games commandingly.
Well, and literally this past weekend, you lose the first 3 games to the Diamondbacks, and you're down 8-0 going into the 3rd inning, and you're like, well, this is about to be a 4-game sweep, and then they come back and they win 10-9. So it's just a huge roller coaster. Like
I
you
just
said.
watched Justin Steele get hurt on opening day, and that's when I just said, well, season's finished. It's
Well, you
over.
also paid Craig Counsell, and that was a huge mistake.
Yeah.
I will
we
get to the
paid Craig
Cubs in a
Counsell
short
just to
while.
be
All
like-
right, I want to hear this.
to be like David Ross, anyways.
Pat Murphy for life.
For sure. Alex?
Murph-mobile.
Murph Mobile.
So honestly, for me, I think my most surprising team, honestly, the Red Sox. Like I remember. Well, actually, I don't. I mean, it's still it still needs to be seen if they can get a spot in October. But honestly, this team's come a long way. Like after the Chris Sale swap, kind of an unenthusiastic offseason, and a season-ending injury to Lucas Giolito. I mean, they were projected to finish last, and they're positive. So I mean, they've way surpassed expectations. And I think that's just from like terrific rookie contributions and just all-star surges from center fielder Darren Duran and starter Tanner Hawk. So I just think they're surprising. I think nobody really thought they'd really make it this far.
Definitely some pieces to build around for the future, but you would think with a team like Boston, they're one of those teams that would never have to rebuild, but yet they do it anyway.
Yeah.
I think you could probably say another shocker would be the Dodgers. They're not, they were supposed to be like a 120 win team.
Bit of a down season for them. Only
They-
93 wins to this point.
Yeah, and they're guaranteed not to even get 100 wins now. So, yeah, only 93 wins. Only one of the best teams in the league.
The best team right here. Yeah, right here.
I think also a big shocker too is the Athletics. Like everyone's thinking they're gonna be pretty bad, and then you're riding Brent Rooker, who's having a fantastic year that no one is talking about, and they're literally moving cities because their stadium is so bad, and the fans literally will boycott the games. They will go to the games to keep the team in Oakland, and to be ending the season with, you're not gonna finish with 100 losses. Most they can finish with, I believe, is going to be 95. But then you move to Sacramento for next year or next 2 years, and then you go to Vegas. You're definitely switching markets, but I think also they've definitely exceeded expectations this year.
They've got a couple of pieces to build around for
yeah,
the
for
future. But I thought their season was going to go worse than their female announcer's gig has gone so far. Bombs away for Brent Rooker changed the score drastically.
Hey Siri, it's not your night.
Home run.
Did that clear the fence?
I mean, to be fair, I'm not a big fan of the move from Oakland to Vegas, but if you were to ask me, would I rather be in Oakland or Las Vegas? I think almost everybody would say I'd rather be in Las Vegas.
I think that's fair to say, especially if they build a dome with air conditioning because, it's probably going to be 120 all summer for their games.
Yeah.
Playing in Vegas is not going to be fun for any road team. I'll put it that way.
No, it will not.
But really quickly, I want to get into some dishonorable mentions for disappointing teams. One of them is the Texas Rangers, the defending World Series champions. I think, I'm not saying I expected them to go back-to-back because I'm not sure if last year was necessarily repeatable, but to be 74 and 82 and completely out of the picture is not something I expected. And I always expect more from the Blue Jays than I actually get year in and year out. They're kind of one of those teams that can just never put it together. But for my most disappointing team is the team I picked to be on top of the NL Central this season, the Chicago Cubs.
You really had to go there, didn't you, Chris?
Of course I did.
Just
I
gotta
mean,
go there,
why
don't
wouldn't
you?
I? I mean, we've been riding the Murph-mobile over your guys' grave for about 2 weeks now.
That's true.
Meep, meep.
You're just going to kick me down while I'm low, huh, Chris? Is that
You
how
guys
this is?
took our manager, paid him $8 million a season to finish 80 and 77, have one of the worst offenses in probably the NL. Constant
I wouldn't say it's
bullpen.
the worst. I'd say it's most definitely the most inconsistent because we could have a 5-homer night once, and then the next 3 games will go 2 hits the whole series.
I got to live that for about 6 years as a Brewers fan.
Yeah.
That will not change.
No.
I can assure
yeah,
you
but
that.
the difference is you guys had consistent pitching. We don't.
Oh,
We have
I didn't
our
get to the
starting
bullpen
rotation.
yet.
We got Shota and Justin Steele, but Nate Pearson, and that's really it in the bullpen. And even then, he's starting to get a little shaky, I think.
The Cubs bullpen was a travesty to bullpens this season as well. Just blowing games left and right
I
for
will
them.
break down and cry if I ever see Hector Neris on the mound ever again in a Chicago Cubs uniform.
Just leave the stadium.
I will get on my knees and start crying if I ever see him on the mound ever again.
But that would be
kidding.
my most disappointing team this season. But really quickly, before final thoughts, I just want everyone to give another player that surprised them this year. I want to start on this one just really quickly. I'm going to say Jackson Chourio for the Brewers. I'm sorry, Colin, but I'll admit I expected him to be a perfectly league average player, if not bouncing up and down from AAA, just because, it's his first year. He's going to have some growing pains.
Yeah.
But since I believe, June. He's been one of the best players in all of baseball, hitting over 300. Had a 2020 season, which is one of the best rookie seasons for a Brewers player of all time, and I just wanted to get that out there. Alex, your thoughts?
So, honestly, I'm gonna say Chris Sale, like just being elite again. So it's unfortunate that we hadn't really seen enough of him in recent years, and I mean it's a variety of reasons. He managed only 31 starts from 2020 to 2023, and it seemed as though as like he was settling into a later part of his career. But I mean the Braves seemed to have like known better than anyone when they sent Vaughn Grissom to Boston. And Sale has not only stayed healthy, but he's been electric. NL best of 2.61 ERA and a 33.3 strikeout rate, which could be trending towards Hall of Fame worthy. And I mean, it's the best story of the season, in my opinion, right now.
One of the best pitchers all year was Chris Sale. Mikey?
Well, I guess we'll do one better than Chris Sale. Paul Skeens has been absolutely dominant.
That man, can we just say
Let me
he's
get
winning
one.
at every
Oh my.
he's winning in every aspect of life.
Yeah, Paul Skeens has been just toasting the entire league. I know he made his debut against the Cubs, and yeah, that still gives me a little bit of nightmares from here and there. I remember being at the mall, having to witness that debut. So yeah, that was a brutal one. But Skeens has been absolutely phenomenal all year. So
As a Brewers fan, I was hoping he'd stay down in AAA for another year, but they had to bring him up.
Yeah.
Laz?
Every single one I was gonna say got snatched up. So I'm just gonna go with Kyle Schwarber. You know, he's
Yeah.
His average is a lot higher than I thought it would be.
He
He's
hits
usually around 200.
Is it over 200?
I think it's close to 250, isn't
Oh,
it?
wow.
He hits ropes, and it's extremely fun to watch on a Phillies team that's, I think they're second in the league right now
Yep.
at like 90.
Right there with the Dodgers.
Something wins.
and of course the Cubs are losing to them as we speak right now.
Shocker.
Yeah, he's right there.
Oh.
We're down 1-0.
Oh yeah,
At the end of the
Phillies
first.
are beating the Cubs.
I'm in absolute
Kyle
shame.
Schwarber hit a leadoff home run.
We're tanking for Wemby, so it's fine.
I don't know.
Tanking
I
for
don't have the-
Wemby
I'm
with an
just
above 500 record.
one
They
thing
can't
out-
even
the
do
one
that
thing
about
right.
Kyle Schwarber right now.
The funny thing I always find about Kyle Schwarber is every time he hits the ball, it's either like a blooper single or an absolute tank to right field every single time.
And it's usually leading the game off, too.
Yeah, exactly.
At least it's not into deep left on the day of any national tragedy.
Nick Castellanos.
Of course.
Got that one.
Colin?
Just want to go back to Jackson Cherry over. Man's not even 21 years old, batting over 300. They had to get him the non-alcoholic beers when they won their division. I mean, that's crazy to be doing what he's
And the
doing at that
stroller.
age.
Don't forget the stroller.
And,
The stroller was a legendary
Stroller,
touch.
right.
Don't
Legendary
forget the
touch, yes.
stroller.
Chris Sale was great too. I mean, like Laz, all my players got taken, but Colin Rea was pretty good, stepping up as the pitcher. Losing Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff out with injury, he stepped up in a big way. Was able to help us get this NL Central win here.
The Brewers in general, I think, were just a good team surprise this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Ryan, really quick.
Where are my Victor Robles supporters at? I mean, cut by the Nationals on June 1st, and Victor Robles comes in playing for the Mariners, whose offense is one of the worst of all time, I think. Their pitching is phenomenal as always, but their offense just so inconsistent. Helped them get to 81 wins. Still alive for the playoffs, but just Victor Robles coming in hitting 336 for the Mariners this season, averaging about a hit per game he plays, so...
Can we also just mention that all of us Hawk Talk guys went to watch the Mariners play the Brewers last year, and the Brewers won on a walk-off walk that night.
Yeah, that was
That
yeah
was a
because
great
whoever their
night.
close was, I don't remember who it was gotta be one of the worst closing pitchers I've ever seen step on the
Yeah.
mound.
I've never heard
Ever.
anyone complain more than you on that car ride home.
Dude, he was horrible.
As a Cubs fan at a Brewers Mariners game, I've never heard more complaining.
And then I got a beer thrown at me.
Yeah, somebody threw a
they-
full beer at
And
me.
then completely
Did you
missed
catch
it. I
it?
think they hit Chris or something.
Isn't
Wouldn't
that
surprise
Andres
me.
completely
Munoz? Is
missed
Andres
me. I
Munoz
didn't
the
get a
closer?
single drop on
Not
me.
sure.
They just slapped someone else.
Was it
And then there-
Munoz? Was it Andres Munoz?
I think so,
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
I don't know. Whoever he was, he stung.
He was terrible.
Yeah, he's
It was a
Yeah,
bad showing. I also like to say that I've witnessed 100% of Oliver Dunn's home runs this year.
There you go.
Shout out Carson Gabor, the Mariners fan, just getting trashed on the whole game by the Brewers fans.
Both
Some
me and him.
including his friends.
Carson
Some may have been me.
Yeah,
Carson
well.
will be hosting tomorrow night as well, so should be fun. But with that, we're going to jump into final thoughts here, where you guys are just kind of free to share whatever sports take you want. Unfortunately, we didn't get to our NBA segment this week, but I'm sure next week we'll have some time for it. Colin, I'll let you take it away with final thoughts.
Pack is back, baby.
There you go.
As Jair Alexander would say.
I'm going to hit up Jeff Bezos and get him to give Malik Willis $8 billion right now, because he deserves it.
Yes.
He's been playing some great football. Matt LaFleur, the play calling has been great. Josh Jacobs has been a stud. Xavier McKinney, what a great pickup. I could go on about this team for hours, but Pack is back.
Laz,
Yeah, Sam Darnold is.
the MVP frontrunner right
I
now,
would
believe
say,
it or not.
Yeah, I mean, he's not had a passer rating under 109. I was going to say 110, but I didn't want to.
It's a fluke. Wait till this Sunday.
All right, dude. I'm
Jair
waiting.
locking down
I'm
Justin
waiting.
Jefferson.
The Jeff Halfley defense is
The
going to
Jeff
be an
Halfley.
experience,
I
as it
thought it was
always
gonna be
is.
some
It's
disaster
so
season.
refreshing. It's so refreshing.
You went.
Bro,
Bro, give
Day
me
one,
a second.
getting
We got
fired.
3 minutes, which means I have 30 seconds to talk about Sam Darnold. I thought it was a fluke until they played the Niners, and then I realized, wow, this may not be a fluke.
This guy knows how to play
That's all I
football.
got.
Well, and they dismantled the Texans on
That
Sunday
was
as
sweet.
well.
That was so sweet.
C.J. Stroud looked lost in that game.
I also thought Sam
Bad.
Darnold was like 46 years old.
He's younger than Joe Burrow, fun
like
fact.
He's 20.
he's-
He's 27.
yeah, he's-
He's
yeah.
had an interesting
He's pretty
career.
young.
Yeah. He's been
He's bounced around the league a little bit, and it's definitely been
But he's found
a
a
roller
home. He's
coaster.
found a home.
Yeah, I mean, he's been
We
what?
don't want McCarthy. Keep Sam Darnold where he's at. Keep
If
him
our-
doing what he's doing.
If our good friend David Pollier is listening to this show, he's definitely gotten enraged with what you had to say there.
That's fine. I'm a Michigan fan myself. But look at Sam Darnold. We'd be 0-3 with McCarthy, for sure.
Most likely. I can't really disagree with you on that. Also, no Jordan Addison and
Healthy
T.J.
McCarthy.
Hawkinson so far.
Yeah.
Mikey?
I'm going to go away from football. I guess you could call this kind of an obscure sport, sort of. Shout out to Drew Best, but it's not entirely obscure. I'm going to the Formula One. The Singapore Grand Prix was just on Sunday. And it was actually really, I'm not going to lie, it was an absolute snoozer of a race. But Lando Norris, for the first time all year, did not lose a single spot on the race start. He actually stayed at first the whole session and actually ended up winning the race. Max Verstappen, who probably, if there's any driver you guys would know, it'd probably be him. He goes home in second. Lewis Hamilton at sixth, who, of course, 7-time world champion. But Daniel Ricciardo, and possibly his last race ever, ended up snagging the fastest lap. And it's only 1 point for the fastest lap, but that could really change the course of the entire championship fight between Norris and Verstappen.
Interesting. Alex?
I'm gonna actually bring it back to football. I just want to say it's been a really like weird season. Like I know usually the beginning is like sometimes there's just like weird stuff that happens. Like the Ravens just starting 0-2. It's just so weird to see that. Like even I just think it's been really weird. Even like the quarterbacks and like even the MVP race as of now. It's like a week ago it was Baker Mayfield and Derek Carr were the leading quarterbacks in the league, and it's just really weird. And I don't think anyone really expected these first 3 weeks to turn out how they are. at all.
No, I got to agree with you there, but we got to keep it moving really quick so Ryan can get his final thought in as well.
I'll just put my World Series pick out there. Not going to do a homer pick with the Brewers, but we got Padres, Guardians, World Series.
Padres Guardians, interesting. We'll get to see some great pitching matchups, I'm sure, in
for
that.
sure.
With that, I just want to wrap it up by the football game maybe didn't go as well as we all wanted it to this weekend for Whitewater, but we got to honor some Paralympians who won gold. I thought it was really cool that Jake Williams jumped back in and started playing again, jumped from coaching the team and winning a national championship back to